Hello and welcome to Swipe. Coming up, start your engines, we're trackside this week with the all-electric world of Formula E.
My baby.
From Furbies to streaming sticks, the latest on the new tech that's set to hit shelves. Robot restaurants move over Gordon Ramsay, R2-D2 wants your job. And a blast from the past, we're talking retro games that are still going strong on this week's Games Review. Competition, as we all know, is great for pushing boundaries of technology. Nowhere is that more prominent than in sport. Right now, teams around the world, led by celebrities like Leonardo DiCaprio and Sir Richard Branson, are gearing up for the start of Formula E, the world's first all-electric Formula One series. It's hoped that the technology, developed from a fierce rivalry on the track, will lead to improvements of electric cars on the roads. To find out more, we sent Joe Tidy along to the final tests at a circuit in France.
Formula E cars, quiet out of the paddock and then like a spaceship on the track. For motorsport fans, it's the sound of these all-electric cars that might take some getting used to. For the drivers and their teams, it's the technology that's a whole new ballgame. Just over 4 months to go until the start of the championship, and final testing has taken place here in central France. Soon, all 10 teams will be given their cars, but it doesn't matter if you're Sir Richard Branson or Leonardo DiCaprio. All teams are being given the same tech. Organisers have spent 18 months getting the 150-mile-per-hour, zero-emissions cars ready. Everything from the engines to the tyres have been tested and chosen for the teams to make sure everyone starts on a level playing field in September. But it's no big secret that there are a lot of unknowns.
We expect to have a good series, good championship from September. We are all very curious about what's going to happen. It's a big challenge.
The ultimate aim of this eye-catching, celebrity-backed sport is to kick-start the electric car revolution, sparking much-needed innovation. Pit lane rivalry in Formula One and other motorsport is said to have led to many things we now routinely use on the road. Super-fast ignition buttons were originally invented for the track and now used in many production cars. Tyre designs evolved from racing innovation. And the disc brakes you probably have on your wheels come from racing too. But before we can benefit from Formula E, it needs to be a success. Motoring journalists are cautiously optimistic.
I'm really looking forward to year 2 of this programme, because this is just the first stepping stone. A single make car, single engine, single battery provider. What they're going to do in the future is open that up to all sorts of different manufacturers who can come along with their own technologies, bring in all sorts of things like hybrids, flywheels, all sorts of zero-emission technology. It'll really make I think it'll make the sport fly.
One of the areas that Formula E will need to improve on is battery life. At the moment, drivers have to switch cars halfway through the race before they run out of power. Organisers say it's another quirk to this new sport they're hoping will attract a younger audience. And for millions, it'll be hard to miss, with races being held in 10 city centres around the world, including London. Joe Tidy, Sky News.
You're watching Swipe. Coming up, the robot chefs that are cooking up a storm. But first, each week hundreds of gadgets hit the market, and sorting the must-haves from the much-hyped can be tricky. One man who's seen it all is Pocket Lint's Stuart Miles, so we asked him to talk us through what's new, from TV streaming sticks to a device which can help you create your own Wi-Fi hotspot on the go.
So I've been playing with a new device called the Goodspeed. It's quite boring, it's box-like. It basically is a mobile MiFi that works in a number of countries to try and save you cash when you travel. Normally what happens when you go to the US, for example, is you log on, you start paying data roaming costs, and you come home to a pretty hefty bill. The idea with this is that you pay a rather large £200 up front, but then every time you go to the States or any other country that they offer support in, you'll pay around about €5–6 a day for 500 meg. Now, of course, there are other ways of doing this. Three, for example, in the UK offers you a chance to free data roam in the US. And if you travel to a specific country a lot, it might be worth checking out getting a specific SIM for that country and a certain data package and signing up for a contract. The connected TV streaming box ecosystem is really heating up at the moment. You've got everybody from Apple to Google to Amazon to Roku trying to vie to make your television incredibly intelligent. The latest is the Roku HDMI streaming stick, which has taken their current technology in a box about this size and shrunk it into a little stick that plugs into your HDMI socket on the back of your TV. Once done, you then get access to a load of services like BBC iPlayer, Netflix, Now TV, Sky News, and about 500 other channels, most of which are pretty useless. The good thing, though, about this is that it is pretty hidden until you realise that you have to power it, and here's the cable that goes there. So it's not just a case of sticking this in the back. That said, once you do that, you can use the remote to power everything, make your television more intelligent than it currently is, and get a wealth of services that are available. At around £50, it is more expensive than some of the offerings from Now TV or Google with their Chromecast, for example, but it does work and there is potential for it to grow in the future. So before Christmas, one of the big Christmas toys was the Furby. But now Christmas is over, he's probably getting a bit tired and boring and may have been found that he's been left on a shelf.
Introducing Furby Furblings from
Hasbro, hoping to change all that, have launched the Furblings. Little baby Furbies that, well, aren't as intelligent as the original Furby boom, but do talk and make silly noises. They also connect to the app, so you can have a bit of fun there. But if you do have the original Furby, it just so happens we have one here, they can, let's just try and wake him up, they can talk to each other. I have to squeeze this one to make him noise, charming, and this one then will respond. Obviously it's a bit of a gimmick, it's a bit of fun, but it should live some more life into the product. And at £15, and this one's £65 thereabouts, they are fairly expensive, although just will make you quite giggle until you get frustrated and throw them halfway across the room.
You're watching Swipe. Coming up, forever blowing bubbles, the idea for technology that really pops. But first, here at Swipe, when it comes to food, we've been known to get more than a little excited with how tech can transform what we taste. But how about having a helper in the kitchen that could take all of the hard work out of cooking? Well, in China, a robot restaurant has been drawing in the crowds, staffed by robot chefs and robot waiters, as Toby Sadler's been finding out.
For futuristic foodies, this is the place to be. The mechanical master chefs at this restaurant in northeast China have been causing quite a stir, taking charge of the kitchen to cook up stir-fries, noodles and dumplings, all on their own.
This robot can cook dishes. We manually put food materials into the cabinet, and then we just press one button, and the robot handles it all.
Certainly the stress levels aren't quite what you'd find in your typical professional kitchen, and humans aren't yet surplus to requirement.
Here we've lots of buttons. Every button represents a table. So we press a button and then the robot will take the dishes or dumplings to the table.
It's certainly proving a hit with local diners.
It really is a very interesting experience.
The dishes taste just like they've been made by human chefs. If no one had told me, I think we wouldn't have noticed the difference.
While it's unlikely to win a Michelin star anytime soon, these robotic Gordon Ramsays are satisfying diners on entertainment value alone. Toby Sadler, Sky News.
You're watching Swipe. Coming up, a blast from the past. We're taking a look at some gaming classics in this week's review. But first, here's a roundup of anything you might have missed over the last few days. Apple has announced plans to pay large dividends to its shareholders. It follows a healthy set of quarterly results. The company reported profits of £6.1 billion in the 3 months to March. The company sold 43.7 million iPhones. That's a 17% increase. Shareholders will now get 6 new shares in exchange for each one they hold, reducing the price from over $500 and making them more attractive to smaller investors. Meanwhile, Facebook has seen profits triple thanks to a surge in mobile advertising sales. It posted profits of £383 million. Advertising revenue was up by 82%. The majority comes from mobile ads. Total daily users were up 21% from a year ago to 802 million. 609 million were mobile users.
When it comes to the broader sector, then actually we can see that there are a huge number of investors, of venture capitalists that are really looking for the next big thing. And so what some people are calling a bubble is actually an awful lot of people taking what are probably quite conscious gambles that maybe they'll be backing the next Facebook or the next Apple because that's where the next set of serious profits are going to come from.
The NYPD has been feeling blue this week after an attempt to use social media to connect with the Big Apple backfired spectacularly. It asked New Yorkers to send pictures of officers being friendly to #MyNYPD, but was swamped instead by somewhat unflattering shots of cops in action. A spokeswoman for the NYPD has insisted the uncensored and open dialogue has been good for the city. There was another milestone for social media this week as the world's biggest football club sacked its manager on Twitter. Manchester United announced they'd parted company with David Moyes in a short tweet. They even helpfully billed it as breaking news, perhaps because the internet had been swamped by predictions of his exit for the previous 24 hours. A Kickstarter project to bring a mini robot printer to market has raised over £250,000 in funding. Given how smartphones and tablets have made it easy for us to work pretty much anywhere these days, the Israeli startup argues it's time that we had mobile printers. Pocket-sized, it apparently prints from your phone onto any size page. Now, scientists at Bristol University have been busy making smart bubbles. This is their chronosensory mid-air display system, which allows bubbles to be filled with scents or have pictures projected onto them. It's hoped it could be used to make gaming more interactive or to provide a sensory way of learning things. It was around this week, a quarter of a century ago, when Nintendo Game Boy first launched. The original might look like a bit of a brick nowadays, but the trailblazing invention helped bring the concept of pocket gaming to the masses. To celebrate its 25th birthday, with a little help from Ellie Gibson, we thought we'd take a look at a few golden oldie games which have stood the test of time.
Well, this week marks the 25th anniversary of the Game Boy, which was not the first handheld console, but certainly the one that really pioneered the sort of market and really reached the masses. It was an absolute phenomenon globally, and to this day I think it's still very fondly remembered by gamers all around the world.
You don't need to touch your shop.
Tetris was designed in 1984 by the Russian games designer Alexei Pajitnov, and it came to the West about 2 years later, and it was massively popular, partly because it was packaged with the Game Boy when that launched in 1989. Alexei Pajitnov didn't actually see any royalties from Tetris until 1996, because until then he worked for the Soviet government, so they made quite a lot of money off it. But then when he set up his own company, he started raking it in. So, of course, there have been lots of iterations of Tetris since the original. Most recently, there's been Tetris Battle, which is one of the most popular games on Facebook, with more than 7.5 million likes. At the top of the leaderboard, there's a guy I think he's played 15,000 rounds of the game, and he's won 14,000. So, yeah, I'm not actually at the top of the leaderboard myself. I'm not actually on it. So there you go. Space Invaders first hit the arcades back in 1978 and went on to sell 360,000 machines, so it really was one of the most popular arcade games of all time. So there have been tons of Space Invaders games released over the years. One of the more recent ones was Space Invaders Infinity. Now this marked a radical departure for the Space Invaders series because not only could your spaceship go left and right, but for the first time it could also go up and down. That was followed in 2010 by Space Invaders Infinity Gene, which was inspired by Darwin's theory of evolution. So as you play the game, the better you get at it, the better your spaceship gets. Now, the mobile version of this game actually has a music mode, and this is pretty revolutionary in that you can pick a song stored on your phone, and the game will generate a level that matches the music. So, yeah, I recommend the Benny Hill theme. Pac-Man first arrived in the arcades in 1980. It was originally called Puck-Man, but when it came to the West, the games company decided to change the name because they were a bit worried about people vandalising the first letter on the arcade cabinets. So back then the gameplay was pretty simple and it's pretty familiar to a lot of people. You're a little yellow blob chasing around a maze, eating lots of other yellow blobs while being chased by ghosts. But recently it's got a bit more complicated than that.
There's only one chance for Pac-World now.
So there's been Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures released last year, which is actually a 3D platforming game that's not very good. I think they've sort of lost something of the spirit of the original, really. So if you fancy a bit of Pac-Man fun, you're better off with World's Biggest Pac-Man, which is an online game, and you can create your own mazes or you can play ones that other people have designed. And it's been hugely popular around the world, with more than 2 billion pills popped to date. So yeah, if you want to give that one a go, it's free to play and it's worldsbiggestpacman.com.
That's it for this week. Remember, you can catch up with all the breaking tech stories all week on Sky News for iPad, our smartphone apps and skynews.com. I'll see you next time.